entire fucking life. I genuinely do not understand why he did or why he said what he said. But I found myself in an argument with a fucking atheist, and it was just one of the most annoying things to have ever heard, you know? And what's worse was that he was black. Like, he came from like a Christian background. He came from all this other stuff. So, you know, he's sitting there saying, I know about all that stuff. And then he's still sitting there saying that none of it is real. And I mean, I wanted to understand him, you know? I usually try to do that more so than anyone that I know, is that I need to understand what it is that you were talking about so that I can help. But if you can't explain that in a simple way, this is going to be a really short conversation. This is going to be a real short deal. You know what I mean? Simply because you don't know how to explain yourself. And he, according to everyone else, I got humbled. You know? According to everyone else, I got humbled, apparently. But I can't accept it like that. You know? I really can't. You know, he's an atheist. I'm a Buddhist. All right? Like, all I'm really saying is that you just need to believe in the spirituality. I'm not even telling you that you need to believe in God. I'm just saying you need to believe in the spirit of life and how that is related to God, you know? Because, I mean, there is definitely a divine connection between us and the universe, you know? Like, there are mystical properties to the human psyche, you know? There are mental faculties that allow us to look within ourselves and to find out things that most people would never even know how to comprehend, that make people think outside of the box, you know? Just about everything and anything that's ever happened or was done had started off in the mind, you know? That's how cellular connection even became a thing, because Nikola Tesla was like, no, this stuff is possible, and did what nobody else was doing. You know, now granted, I have no insight into what that guy was doing. I don't know how AC current works, you know, but at the same time, you have to understand that what he was doing was completely extraordinary. You know, and what he would say was like, if you want to know the secrets of the universe, just follow the energy. And why wouldn't this energy itself be God? Is my question. Because God is a conversation that's been going on longer than anybody else on this planet has ever been alive. We have always sat down and talked about God in one way or another. But bottom line, he is real. He exists, and he exists within us. You know? He is not just some man-made religion. God himself is completely separate from religion as far as I know, because there are multiple interpretations of this dude. You know, some of us call him God, some of us call him Allah, some of us call him Buddha. You know, I mean, he has multiple fucking names. And even though Buddha was like a real person, you know, this is why I believe in Buddhism more so than Christianity, I would argue. Simply because of how I've just been touched. Like, I was raised Christian, but born Buddhist, you know? And I know that doesn't make any sense, but I will break that down to you later on throughout this video, because there's so much more to Buddhism that meets the eye, that meets anything that you've ever sat down and read about, you know? Because even I've done my research on Buddhism, and I definitely would sit here and say that I've had my experiences with Buddhist spirituality. Notice I didn't say just Christian spirituality, I said Buddhist spirituality, meaning that that this is a little far out of my box. Like, I'm not really thinking the way most people think. And Christians, I mean, when it comes to like Christianity and all that, I mean, you can't deny it. You really can't deny, like, it was a prophecy, you know? That's how far I want to believe in, like, the Bible. I've never sat down and read it, but I genuinely think that it is a prophecy that speaks volumes like nothing else. You know, in every religion across the world, across the globe, everyone talks about this 40 days, 40 nights of rain. It it happens in Zoroastrianism. It happens in Christianity. It happens in religions from Japan. I'm not sure what those religions were. It showed up in Jainism, Hinduism, and now these I cannot claim are factual. I do not exactly know which ones were actually like the things, but there were different like accounts. Like even in Spanish cultures, there were people who claimed that it rained for 40 days and 40 nights, and there was just this huge flood, and a lot of people died. It was the same thing in Egypt, because apparently it hit Egypt. It was a huge fucking flood, you know, and Noah's Ark. Like it was a global phenomenon that made people say God is real. So there's usually like a day of reckoning when things are not going according to order, you know, when things are not as, you know, the universe needs it to be, simply because everybody is acting in heinous ways. Everybody thinks that they could just get away with having an ego and hurting other people, and that's not a guide. There's no guidance in any of that. There's no inspiration to it, you know, other than gold, really. And it's not glory. You can't claim it's glory because it's more so spoils that people glorify, you know, whether it be the spoils of women, whether it be the spoils of money, whether it be the spoils of dominating a reputation or a game, you know, whether it be through being cunning and deceitful, or, you know, outright brutal and violent, you know. Like, there's so much deceit that we see in the media today, and we can't really trust any of it. And it's so hard to get through anything because of how hard it is to trust things right now. I don't even know if you can trust me. You don't even know if you can really trust me in anything that I say. And I mean, the only time people really ever believe in anything is when there's like this collective, you know, a collective appreciation for a person. To, you know, really just get people out there. And, you know, mainly people who are just spitting facts. You know, like Cat Williams and Candace Owens. I don't know if you guys have been keeping up with her, but she got canceled for spitting facts about things. About Ukraine, about things, you know, about Russia, and how Russia itself wasn't necessarily even in the bad. And I know that sounds pretty crazy to say, but Russia itself was fighting off neo-Nazis. I mean, if that's not doing your part, I don't know what is. I mean, Nazism, the belief in that anyways, which is still an ongoing thing. A lot of people believe that Hitler escaped to, I believe it was Chile or Colombia or something like that. He escaped, or Argentina. He escaped to Argentina. And they live up in the mountains where there's just a bunch of Nazis that just live there. So this is evidence that people, that they survived. They staged it all. And we have been getting lied to ever since 1945 about a whole lot that people are still just not even aware of, because they think that whatever it was that they taught you in school was the truth. And it wasn't the entire truth. And there's a whole lot that you're actually missing out on, especially when it comes to Hitler, when it comes to D.B. Cooper, when it comes to, I mean, even in racial, like, integrations, you know, like, right now, there is a whole lot going on with race issues, and more importantly, black people. I have never wanted to be more like Uncle Ruckus in my entire fucking life until these last 4 years started happening. Shit just started happening. And black people literally proved to be the worst out of all of them, you know? Like, I swear to God, I do not like going to the store with my mom to go shopping for a group of niggas to be there also shopping. Because of how I look, my demographic, people are people latch on. People want things from you when you look a specific way, but think differently. And I genuinely prefer to not even be associated with too many of them. Unless they are of respect, unless they are of compassion and intellect, if they carry these character traits, even just one of them, then in my jurisdiction, yeah, you're good. But if you're out there gangbanging, killing other black people, raping women, you are not representing African Americans. You are representing a nigger. You are representing a dog. You are representing the lowest of the low when you do shit like that. And when you're black, holding a gun at another black person over red and blue or a hoe, you are the worst person out there. That shit is defiled. That shit is sick and disgraceful. You think that's a way to teach children? When we need to be more in an era of respecting women anyways. With this whole Roe v. Wade situation, like they literally can't even make the choice to get rid of a child, something that is physically within their, that physically and internally affects them. That is still their choice at the end of the day. And that is their body. And I really feel like there should just be like a timestamp on it. Like if you're going to have an abortion, you need to do it within the first 2 months, which is plenty of time to make that decision. And within that time, it is always your choice until after that. Because then it would feel just morally nihilistic to end the potential of a child. And that is the whole argument on that. The entire argument of pro-life and not so much pro-life. Whatever the other side was, I'm not sure if that was the right word. But I mean, that's just not respectful. And honestly, I would go so far as to saying that we need to stop calling women bitches. I don't know why we have normalized that. Or, I mean, I guess I do. Hoes. But it's really not okay. And even women just blindly go by that and think, oh, nothing of it. But like, no, this is an unconscious problem. This is a subconscious problem. That you only think yourself worth a bitch. That like, this is why men can get away with disrespecting and raping you. Because even you don't really respect you, and why should they? And when you get to that low point in your life where you just hate everything about yourself, you're still just telling yourself, think positive, stay positive. One day you're going to be out of it. And one day you really will. Hopefully you're alive. But do you really think any of that was ever worth your expense? When it all could have been avoided had you just gave a fuck about yourself and your own education, rather than just living life off your vagina. Like you were misguided. And it's why people can get away with treating you like scum. That's like the whole problem right there. And if men did just simply respect women, because I mean, they do have like all this potential. Like they do. They have this psychic intuition that can tell when their man is cheating on them. That is not normal. How the fuck do you do that? Like, I just had a gut feeling. Like, nigga, that is crazy to me. And even though it is sort of predictable, the fact that you sort of just already know that, based off of just picking up off of energy, that psychic energy, to just know something without really even knowing it, to just even have a hunch, you know? It's kind of like a leap of faith. And when they're right about that stuff, it is insane, man. That shit is insane. That shit is crazy. But women just deserve so much more respect than anybody ever gives them. And that's another global phenomenon that we need to fucking handle. There are too many of them out here. Too many of our women getting put down and raped and drugged and murdered and left in the streets, bloodied and, dead with semen stains all over them. Like, that is literally what some men get away with. And those men who do that shit, they hate themselves. No man can rape a woman and be proud of that. You might sit there and you might smile, but you will never truly love that experience. Because it was too rigid, it was too rough, there was no emotion in that shit. There was no buildup, there was no trust, and it ruins a social structure amongst us as human beings, amongst us as men and women. And we can't guide the next generation if we as men and women right now can't get along. So it really does mean for you to just grow the fuck up and just try to understand them. Try to understand her. How women have to think in this world of objectivity. How men have to think in this world of subjectivity. We need to be subjected to something in order for us to actually want to give a fuck about anything. Yet women are a lot more objective about materials and going out and living life. Like we are polar opposites. Polar opposites attract and complement one another. Not to repulse disrespect one another or disgrace one another. That to me just isn't morally right. It's not morally right. It is fucked up on every level, dude. I just don't like shit like that. I really don't.